first question goes to Lowell Johnson. Could you summarize how Granby's town charter is unique and special to Granby?
Whoa. Okay. Wow. Chapter and verse like.
Your assessment is rough question.
I know, I was also on the charter, I was on the charter revision twice. It is so important to have a roadmap as to how the town operates within that charter. It is one of those things where you have an opportunity in a charter revision to change things. For example, we used to have a budget meeting where the budget would be voted on at the meeting. Well, this last charter changed that, so now we have a ballot meeting. We have now 2 persons that are assigned as alternates to different boards. With a charter revision, you can grow with the town. And it's so important. I think the charter should be a document. What year are you? Senior. You should have a class or 2 to do nothing but read and study the town charter.
Good answer.
Wow. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Johnson, could you just introduce yourself really briefly?
I'm sorry, yes. My name is Lowell Johnson. I live at 289 Simsbury Road in West Granby, and we've been Granby residents since 1961.
Okay. The next question goes to Paula Johnson. If you don't mind introducing yourself.
Have everybody introduce themselves.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
So,
Paula Johnson.
yeah.
I'm Paula Johnson, and I've lived with my husband Lowell, and we've been in Granby since 1961, where we raised our 3 sons, and it was a wonderful, wonderful growing up experience for them. It's been a privilege and an honor to serve on planning and zoning for about 24 years. In about 20 of those, I've been the chairman, and I have to tell you, I never imagined I would be chair of the town board, but here I still am. I'm a firm believer in getting involved. Volunteerism is really the heart of our town, and it's how you really understand your community. I started with Valley Preschool all the way up to the senior center. I also worked in political campaigns, and that got me interested in running and becoming part of planning and zoning. Thank you.
Jim Sansone.
I'm Jim. I've lived in Granby for 48 years with my wonderful wife, Patty. We live on Mountain Road. We have 3 adult children, all went through the Granby school system. And as a result of that, I've had successful careers. I became a member of the Granby Planning and Zoning Commission, I think it was 12 years ago. And I really enjoyed the work. It's nice to be able to help people, help guide them through the regulations, because they can be daunting for people at times. They're pretty much cut and dry what you can do, but there are judgment calls to be made, especially with special exceptions. Thank you very much.
Chris Cheney.
Chris was not able to make it.
Okay. And Ann Crimmins.
Hi, I'm Ann Crimmins. I've lived in Granby since 1978, and like the Sansones, I have 2 adult children who went through the Granby Public Schools. I served on the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission back in the early 80s. 17 years on the Board of Education, 2 of those years as chairperson, and I'm running for my 3rd term in office on the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals takes the zoning regulations and receives applications from residents in town or property owners in town who wish to have a variance or a change or an individual exception made for their property and to be able to build.
Instead of Chris, you want to do Eric Myers?
I'm a late entrant.
Eric Myers.
Go for it.
So introduce yourself.
Sorry, no, that's okay. So I'm Eric Myers. I live at 22 Barndore Hills Road. I've lived at that residence for 23 years. My first stay in Granby was as a child through age 12. Went away to school and then came back to Granby. So I've been in Granby about 35 years. I have 3 children, great children that are going through the Granby school system, and I'm very, very interested in getting a start in town politics to helping shape the future of the town on planning and zoning.
So the first question goes to Paula Johnson. What are your thoughts on the development in Granby?
That's a very, very broad question. It isn't so much my thoughts, but it's what our plan of development points to us. And right now, we're working on the third time that I've co-chaired with Eric, Luke, and Bill our plan of development. It's a 10-year program or a document that looks to what we expect in the next 10 years, what our goals are, and how we implement those. So my wish would be, as we work into the next term, that when we're finished with this plan, which probably should be in January, that we would highlight particular issues that we would like to work on. There she is right now. And so that's probably where my focus will be in the next 4 years. Is that kind of your question that you were looking for?
Yeah.
If you want more detail, let me know. Is that good?
Okay. And
Chris Cheney just arrived, so that's another planning and zoning member. So,
she's not, is she up for election?
yes. Oh, yes, she is.
No.
No, she's not.
She's for.
Anyway, if you want to,
I thought she was.
Do you want to sit here? I'll switch with you.
Okay.
I'm for your alternate, so I'm actually not.
Okay, I see, I thought you were. Oh, okay, good.
Jim Sansone, what are your thoughts on the declining student population in Granby?
Well, I suppose we have to adjust to that by doing something with the regulations to encourage growth. I don't think anyone likes to see a town shrink in population. That's exactly what's happening. How we do that, I don't know. Perhaps the plan of conservation and development that we're currently developing can look at that and come up with an answer, but I don't think the regulations of the Planning and Zoning Commission can do much, except perhaps encourage maybe more apartments, something to broaden the demographic base of town.
Ann Crimmins, what interests you about the position you are running for?
What interests me about?
What interests you about the position that you are running for?
I think the most important aspect of what it is I do on the Zoning Board of Appeals is being fair. And fairness includes listening to what the property owner wishes to do with their property that does not conform to the zoning regulations, listening to the neighbors whom we've notified to see if there are any objections to the change they wish to make in their property. For instance, they want to put up a garage, but it's a little too close to the property line. If there is a hardship, the septic tank, wherever, is placed, so this is the only spot you can put it. We have to be very careful, first of all, to honor the charter of the town and the zoning regulations, but also to be fair, because these people are our neighbors.
All right. Those are our part. Oh, Eric Myers. Why are you running for this position?
I'm running for this position. I'm currently sitting on a position that I took for somebody who stepped down, and I'm running to hold the position because I feel that it's my time to get involved in town politics. The town of Granby has given me an awful lot. Again, my 2 stays in Granby totaling many, many years, and I'm looking forward to giving back to the town and helping set the future to solve some of the other problems that were articulated with regard to declining growth and school populations dwindling, to be on the Planning and Zoning Board to help make some responsible decisions that protect landowner and property owners' rights, but also set Granby up for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys introduce yourselves?
Thank you, Sally. I was thinking the same thing.
You just
Pull it up.
pull it up. Really, there you go.
Wow, it's new. Okay. Hi, I'm Kate Wheeler. I'm Lauren Bledsoe. I'm a senior. I'm a junior at Granby High. We would like to talk to the Board of Selectmen this evening. First, we'd like to have you introduce yourselves, first starting with Mr. Scott Conley, and then Ms. Sally King.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay. First of all, thank you to all the students who put this together for us. It's a great opportunity for all of us, and we very much appreciate it. My name's Scott Cunley. I'm running for my second term as first selectman. My wife Joni and I have lived here for 23 years, little over 23. We've raised our, what's that?
Newcomers.
Newcomers, there you go. We've raised our 5 kids here. They've all gone through the Granby school system. My 2 sons are still in the high school. I've been honored to serve in some form or capacity in town government for a little over 20 years. I started out on the Board of Assessment Appeals and then the Board of Finance, and I've been on the Board of Selectmen for just over 6 years. And I'm truly honored to be serving with all these folks here. So.
Thank you.
Going in order? I'm Sally King. I've been in Granby since, I'm also kind of a newcomer compared to some of these folks here. We've been here since 1984, so almost 31 years. I'm an attorney by trade. I practiced in Hartford for 15 years with Robinson & Cole and did a lot of nonprofit work also. I started on the Board of Selectmen. I was elected in 1992. So I'm kind of the institutional memory now. I really enjoy Granby and being a part of the governance of Granby because it's a town that's cooperative. Our boards work together, our parties work together. We're all after the same thing, which is keeping Granby unique as it is now, which is such a mix of farmland and beautiful spaces and people that come here because they want to be here. And it's kind of unique in the Valley, I think. And working on this board has been a pleasure, and it's been a constantly evolving experience to try to do what's right for the town. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Mark Newman. I've served on the Board of Selectmen for 12 years and decided to run again. Prior to that, I'd served on the Board of Assessment Appeals and as Town Constable, a position that we actually no longer have.
Thanks to Mike because he did so well.
So effective, I finished the job with a little bow, and the charter revision, as a matter of fact, got rid of that position. But I look forward to serving with my fellow Board of Selectmen again for 2 more years.
My name is Jim also, Jim Lofink, and I deferred to Mark because he's my senior on the board. I'm the junior member. I'm so junior that I've not actually been elected. I was appointed to fill a vacancy, and if I do get elected in this cycle, I get to wear a tie up here.
You can have mine.
I'm very much a relative newcomer to Granby, but in my time here, I've grown to really love the town, get very engaged and involved, and met such wonderful people here. I think I got recruited by a former selectman who, when he called me up and said, "What do you do? What do you like?" I said, "Well, I like to fix things." He said, "Well, nothing's broke." So it took a while, and then he gave me a call and said, "We've got an opening on a board that hasn't started its work for 6 months because they need another person." I said, "What's it doing?" He said, "Investigating and looking at a wash basin, a wash bay for the Department of Public Works." Boy, that's an exciting way to get involved in town government. But I ended up chairing that committee, moved from there, I think, to Charter Revision Committee with several people that are up here in this room, which was a, how long process? 6 months? Yes. Right? Yep. And on development and sitting here tonight hoping for votes this fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question tonight is for Mr. Cunley. It is, what does it mean to you to hold this elected office?
It means a lot. This town has really given me and my family a lot. I want to be able to give back and volunteer. Like I said before, I volunteer with some great folks, get a lot of great ideas from folks. One of the things I've been holding, and I don't really drink that much coffee, but I have been this year, is Coffee with Cunley. And it's where people can come and meet with me and kind of voice their concerns if they don't like doing it in a public forum. And I think this whole process and serving on the town, I've met so many great people, heard a lot of great ideas, and I just want to be able to give back where I can. So.
Thank you. We actually have one more question for you, and it is, what is your relationship with the town of Granby?
Well, we're just dating. Like I said, I've been here 23 years. I've been involved in everything from coaching to being involved in my kids' sports to activities at the school. It's a great place to live and raise a family. There's a lot of open space. We have Holcomb Farm. It's just a great place to live. Not really sure what else I can say about it, but I hope to move to the next up, and maybe we can get married someday. We'll see. So.
Thank you very much. Our next question is for Ms. King, and it is, what is the biggest problem Granby faces, and how do you plan to address it?
I guess the biggest problem everyone will always point to is fiscal responsibility and how we're responding to. We get continuing cuts. We get mandates from the state government, and then they cut our funding. So we're kind of at the end of the line in terms of the complaint department and of fixing these problems that the state more or less creates for us in many ways. I think we have ever since I've been on the board, there's a very cooperative attitude amongst the board. There's a lot of long-range planning. We have a model. We're constantly striving to keep tax increases in a series that's not up and down with huge increases. We try to keep it moderate increases, and we're always looking at ways to work together to try and be fiscally responsive.
Thank you.
My question is for Mark Newman. What do you plan to accomplish in your position?
New position, because I haven't run before. For the Board of Selectmen, the principal activity we have during the year, as Sally indicated, was passing the town budget, or at least proposing the town budget to the voters for their approval. Secondarily to that, we have the building activities that we're finishing up now from the last bond, and need to make sure those are completed in a timely manner and on budget.
My other question for you is, what about Granby do you love? What makes it special to you?
Still to me? I grew up here. I'm a graduate of Granby High School, and I had to leave this town to go to college and a job, but when the opportunity arose, I came back because I really enjoyed living here and want to make sure that it stays as a place for families to raise their own children.
Okay, thank you. For Jim Lofnick, what interests you about the position that you're running for?
Earning it. What interests me about it, I'm always interested in the way that things work and fit together, and I think through working on the charter revision and the plan of conservation development, that gives sort of a long view of how things operate in the town and what changes we can expect. And being part of a group that has such a long history with a town manager who's been here for, I believe, 35 years, or in that range, the longest serving in Connecticut, with so many people who have served on this board for so long. It's a well-oiled machine, if you will. But there's always new things that you see coming, and having that look forward from that work, that declining school populations of 25% over 10 years, and increasing senior population during the same time period of almost 50%. Those are big changes over a 10-year period. So anticipating those, working on them, trying to find something to fix in there, if you will, that's what interests me.
Thank you.
We leave.
Yeah,
Do we vacate here so we can get the mics?
We leave. Yeah, we leave because they need to come up and use the mic.
Good evening. My name is Lily Holm.
I'm Amanda Ratcliffe.
And we are both seniors at Granby High School. So we are going to be asking questions of both the Board of Finance and the Board of Education. So Ms. Rome, if you wouldn't mind starting off by introducing yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kelly Rome. I am a lifetime resident of Granby. I went through the Granby school system with my buddy Mark here. We graduated together. Maybe I was a few years later. Still got the hair. Just kidding. And I am currently on the Board of Finance. I have spent time on the Zoning Board of Appeals that Ann Crimmins had talked about earlier. And this will be my second term that I'm running for the Board of Finance.
Jenny Emery, will you now introduce yourself, please?
Sure, thank you. My name is Jenny Emery. My husband Dave and I chose Granby to live in and raise our kids about 35 years ago. I spent most of my career, all of my career, working with municipalities and school systems all across the country in a field called risk management, which touches on just about everything that local government does. And when I retired 4 years ago, I felt a very strong urge to find ways to give back to the community where we had raised our 3 kids who benefited greatly from the Granby Public Schools. I did want to tell you that they all commented after going to very good colleges that they felt very well prepared for college after Granby Public Schools, so you should know that. So when the opportunity to serve on the Board of Ed came along, I said yes. After 4 years, I would tell you that it is a real learning experience, and to some extent, I feel an obligation to run for and serve another term because you can only get stronger if you get a grounding in what's going on, and it's very complicated stuff.
Thank you. Lynn Gulzo, will you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Lynn Gelzo, and I give you a lot of credit for trying it, because it's not an easy one. I grew up in Wisconsin, so I did not grow up in Connecticut or in Granby, but I grew up in Wisconsin, and I moved out here in about 1998, and we, with my husband Seth, and we have 3 kids. Really came to know and love Granby. I think we picked it for the horses. We're avid horse people, yeah. And I'm pretty involved with Granby Pony Club. And I'm just very involved with youth. And I think that education, the opportunities we give kids in town are really important, and so that's why I'm running for Board of Ed. Again, second time.
Thank you. Rosemary Weber, will you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I've been on the Board of Education for the last 4 years, and I'm seeking another 4-year term on the board. The last 4 years has been a phenomenal experience for me, and a good chunk of that I've spent on the Curriculum, Policy, and Technology Subcommittee as their chair. I've only been in Granby for about 10 years. My husband and I live here with our 3 kids. I have one in Kearns, one at Wells, and I have one at the high school who runs with you, Amanda. And so far, so good, I think. The team's off to a good start. Obviously, I have a vested interest in making sure that our school system is great. By trade, I'm a lawyer. I work in the child welfare and child protection field, so I have a particular interest and expertise in child welfare law. And before that, I spent about 3 years on active duty in the United States Army.
Thank you. Mr. Fiorentino, will you please introduce yourself?
I will, thank you. My name is Mark Fiorentino. I think I am the most junior member of the crowd tonight. I moved here with my family, my wife Crystal, my son Gage, who some of you may know, and my daughter Ellie, about 6 years ago. We came here from Las Vegas. I've served almost 2 years now on the Board of Education. I was appointed to a vacant position, so I'm seeking my first full term in my first election. I am also a lawyer. Most of my career I spent representing clients in front of boards of zoning adjustments in Las Vegas and the surrounding community. So I have a tremendous amount of experience working with elected officials. Really, it's all I've done for my whole career. I've worked with the federal government, the state government, and lots of local boards. And I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to be on the Board of Education. In my 2 years, I've served on the Finance Committee. I've had an opportunity to learn a lot of different things. So I've served on the Finance Committee, and I've served on negotiating teams that I'll tell you more about later.
Thank you.
Did you give me the 30 seconds?
Okay, our first question goes to Kelly Rome. What is the biggest problem Granby faces, and how do you plan to address it?
Tough question. I would say probably one of the biggest challenges that Granby has, and we've continued to have it, it's a challenge and it's also what makes Granby special, is 90% of the revenues that cover all of the expenses for the school in the town comes from residential homes. As the population starts to decline, we're going to have to find new ways to bring additional families to the town. And I think maintaining our school system and the quality education that you guys are receiving is really a huge draw, and that's what brings a lot of new families back to Granby.
Thank you. Another question. What interests you about this position that you're running for?
I've been in the financial services arena for about 28 years on the corporate side, and I've done a lot of volunteer work on, the Rovers and Little League and hockey and things like that. And I really wanted to find a way to kind of leverage what I had learned both on those other positions as well as my work within the town. And the Board of Finance is a great place for me to bring those skills, as well as I also have the ability to learn from some really very experienced individuals that have been on the Board of Finance for a long time, and they really understand all the inner workings of the town. So it's a great opportunity for me to learn and to give back to the town.
Thank you. Okay, our next question goes to Lynn Gelzo. Is that correct?
Sure, thanks.
What is your association or relationship with the town of Granby?
Well, I live here, so there's that. It's a great little town. Like I say, I moved here, and I think mostly because of the horses. This was such a horse-friendly community, but got to really like the rural character. in many ways, it does remind me of, growing up in Wisconsin, that this cows and things like that wandering around are, not that new to me. And I like cheese. So it's a great town. Yeah, I do. I go down to Hayes. I buy my goat cheese, my milk. It's like, this is just a terrific town. There's so many things that it has to offer. And I'm really happy to be part of it.
Thank you. Another question. Why are you running for this position?
For Board of Ed?
Yes.
Well, as you probably know, it's unopposed, and most of our elections are. There's not like I'm in any real danger here. But I think serving on Board of Ed is pretty natural for me. Before I did this, I was the reporter for Granby Drummer, and I covered the Board of Ed, so we got to know a lot of the issues involved. And again, the Drummer, my gosh, we're so lucky to have that paper and the volunteers and the things that come out of it. But I got very immersed in the education issues, very interested in it. Obviously, I have kids, so the issues that we decide can really impact people's lives. And that's been made clear to me so many times, that as we're shrinking and we close a school, or we change out principals, or we make decisions on teacher evaluations, these affect the lives of the kids and the families. We tried to do something a year or so ago involving just, having a early release once a week in the elementary, and realized again how important our decisions can be to families, that when we make a decision, it really matters, and we get a lot of feedback, and that's great. And I think one of the most interesting things about this being on the Board of Ed is that there are 7 of us, but we all get a vote. And I think everybody in town would like to have a vote on some of our issues. And so it's kind of special that and I carry that responsibility. I realize that when I'm voting, it's not just my opinion, that I have to represent the people here, because, again, the things we decide really do matter. And we hear about it when we make a bad decision, and we also hear about it when we get a good one. And I think that's what I like about Granby, too, is we get people that will tell us, good job. And I think that's a great thing about Granby, is that we do get compliments. So that's it. I mean, I sit on the curriculum with Rosemary. Curriculum is a passion of mine. I really think that is the heart and soul of education. And I think one of the big issues that we face, in addition to declining enrollment, which you're probably all sick of hearing about, is that the relationship of the board with teachers, the relationship of the board with students is really important, and I'd like to continue to work to improve those and make those stronger. So I'm going to just give away the rest of my time. I got nothing more to say.
Okay, Ms. Emery, this question is for you. What are your thoughts on the declining student population in Granby?
Well, first of all, the declining population is caused by larger issues than Granby. We're right in line with, if not a little behind, the trends in the Northeast. And I guess my real thoughts are, in the long run, the old joke is, you don't have to run faster than the bear, you just have to run faster than the person you're with. We just have to offer more and better than the towns around us to make sure that people are going to want to live here. And I think we do now. People tell us they choose Granby because of the open space and the quality of the education. The irony is open space doesn't generate taxes, and public education requires funding. So the challenges are huge to maintain the funding that's required to provide the level of quality education and educational experience that will attract and keep families here in Granby. We have a great foundation to do that. We are on top of our game right now, and I have every confidence we're going to continue to do that by making smart choices about shrinking facilities when we need to, without compromising the quality of the education in the school system. So unfortunately, thanks to many people who came before me and before some of us at this table and some of the folks out there, good decisions have been made. We are confronting this challenge from a position of strength. And but I do hope that the taxpayers will get very involved in paying attention to what's going on, because the one thing we can't afford to do is allow the quality of education to decline in Granby. That will be the biggest hit to the taxpayers. Much bigger hit than a short-term, than what they pay each year in taxes, is if their houses if they can't find families to sell their houses to. So that's why the burden is on our public education system to make sure that that does not happen.
Thank you. Another question. What about Granby do you love? What makes the town special to you?
Well, open space and quality education are why we are here. And I guess I would add to that, my husband and I have both experienced, he's a coach, so he has a lot of interaction with parents. And now through my service on the Board of Ed, we have a pretty engaged community. We have people who care, people who will speak up and tell us when they're unhappy or when they're happy. The volunteerism somebody mentioned earlier tonight is incredible in Granby. And that doesn't happen by accident. I don't know what it is in the past 50 or 100 years that created that, or 200 or 300 years, that created that kind of culture here. But I am aware that if we were to ever lose it, we would lose much of what Granby has to offer. So one of the things that I'm very interested in doing through my role on the Board of Ed, and in fact the whole Board of Ed is very interested in this, is getting better at our communication with the community and our outreach and our engagement, not just to hear their voice, but also to help them understand when we've studied an issue and we've reached a conclusion that we think is in the best interest, we need to find better ways to communicate that back to the community, because that civic engagement is the glue that holds us together. And it makes us very special today, and we can't afford to lose it in the future.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Mark Fiorentino. What do you plan to accomplish in your position?
More of the same, I hope. I would reiterate what a lot of people have said, that we have a unique challenge in front of us in terms of maintaining the quality of education that we have. That's the reason we moved here, is because of the schools in Granby and their reputation all the way out as far as Las Vegas. When we did research about schools in Connecticut, Granby came up over and over and over again. And so I'm hopeful that I can use the experiences that I've got that I didn't get to tell you about because my time was up, to continue to serve. I think, as Lynn said, the town is very blessed in terms of the people that you have representing you, because of the respect we share for each other and the willingness to work through solutions without regard to parties. Nobody here told you what party they were from, and it never comes up. We sit and we work through problems and issues together. And I hope I can continue to be a part of that, and to provide that quality of education with what really is a declining revenue stream when you look at it very carefully. As Kelly said, so most of our taxes come from people who own houses. That's relatively unique. Most towns are funded by a much larger proportion of commercial property, which pay a much higher rate of taxes. Because part of the quality of life we enjoy in Granby is we don't have Walmart. If we need a Walmart, we go to another town for it. And that, to a certain extent, improves our quality of life, that we have very limited, very well-planned commercial in very limited areas, but that places the burden on people who own houses in Granby to pay for the education. That's a tough challenge. One of the things that most folks don't know, so if you read in the local newspaper about how the tax rate is proposed to increase 2%, that's actually a cut for the Board of Education budget because our costs increase faster than 2%. So we're trying to maintain that quality of education while every year trying to manage cuts. And so that's what excites me about the position, and that's what I hope to continue to contribute to, that challenge.
Thank you. Another question we have for you are, what are some policies you plan to make or change?
I'm not on the policy. So now I get to go back to the 30 seconds I that's a good question. So I serve on the Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee focuses on numbers and the budget and staying within the budget. We're also responsible, though, for working with our different groups of staff and professionals when their contracts come up for renegotiation. So I've served on teams that do that. I think we will have to ultimately, I don't know right off the top of my head what they would be, but as we make some decisions on declining enrollment and exactly how we're going to do that, which option we choose and how we implement that option, there's undoubtedly going to be some policy changes that we're going to have to look through, not just in terms of staffing, but in terms of other financial management. We'll have one less school to maintain, but we're going to have, at least for foreseeable future, the same number of students to serve. So I think that'll require us to look at all of our policies, but I don't know if I can name a specific one tonight.
Thank you. Our next question is for Rosemary Weber. What are your thoughts on the development in the town of Granby?
I think development is important, but there has to be a balance. So I think I would defer to our Planning and Zoning Committee and their interpretation of the regulations. But again, it's all interconnected. Our town's development is important to the extent that we provide the appropriate services to people, so this is an attractive place to live and to want to live, and to educate their kids. On the other hand, we want to balance that with open space and being able to ride your horses, and which is very important to me because my husband's a veterinarian, so bring on the horses. But so I think it's a balance. So it's very important. I don't profess to know the details of our 10-year plan, but I know it's a very important balance, and I think we do a pretty good job as a town to maintain it.
Thank you. Our second question for you is, what does it mean to you to hold this elected office for the past 4 years?
It's been an honor. It's been a privilege. Obviously, like I said in my introduction, I've served in the military on active duty. Public service has always been a very important thing for me, very high on the priority list. And so taking off a uniform for me didn't mean kind of sitting back and not serving my community. So this is my way of giving back. Frankly, I think serving on the Board of Education, no offense to our Board of Selectmen, is probably the most important position I could have in this town, because as a board, like Lynn said, we make a lot of decisions that directly impact the quality of education for our students, making sure that you are getting everything you guys need to be successful in life, because that really, I always say as a parent, my kind of grade of success is how well my kids are doing, and I feel that way as a member of the board. How well you guys do when you leave Granby High School and go out into the world to achieve your goals is really how I measure the success of our board. So I think it's very important. I also recognize that we have the biggest budget in town for obvious reasons, but because of that, I have a very significant obligation to the taxpayers of this town to make sure that I am using their dollars wisely and that they are getting the biggest bang for their buck. So, very important job, and I'm honored to do it, and I hope I get to do it some more.
Thank you.
Mr. Cunley offered to sing if you have extra time.
Mr. Cunley choked on a cookie. Glad Mr. Cunley's still here. Still jokes, too.
Hello, my name is Shakar Hunter. I am in Mrs. Marino's Honor Civics class, and on behalf of all of our class, we would like to thank all of the candidates we would like to thank them for everything they do to make our home, Granby, a better place. We would like to thank all of you for joining us this evening. We know you all have busy lives, but you made time out of your schedule to be here tonight. We'd also like to thank our registrars of voters, Miss Wolf and Miss Thrall, for organizing this event in honor of National Voter Registration Day. This event was very beneficial to our civics class. We spent a decent amount of time in class preparing ourselves, and we would like to thank you for letting us be here in attendance tonight. Once again, thank you for joining us tonight, and please get out and vote for your local candidates on November 3rd. Thank you and good night.